the second Geek Classic on our journey to Toy Story 4. Yesterday I brought you guys my review for the first original Pixar film, Toy Story, and today we're going to talk about the second one, the one that was supposed to be a direct-to-video sequel that no one cared about. Turns out it was actually a pretty damn excellent film, so they put it out in theaters, and of course there will be spoilers. And yesterday I was an idiot because I forgot to run down the director and the cast. Of course, this one stars Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, amongst many others, and it brings in Kelsey Grammar and Joan Cusack, of course, and it was once again directed by John Lassester, but this time he had the help of Brannon and Lee Unkrich, who went on to direct Toy Story 3, and of course, Coco. Now in this one, as Andy's mom is having a yard sale, a very dedicated collector from Al's Toy Barn stumbles upon Woody, who was just hanging out on Buster's back and got lost in the middle of the people. So he kidnaps Woody and takes him to his house as he is prepared to sell the entire set of what turns out to be a very classic TV show starring Woody, Jessie, Stinky Pete, and Bullseye. Now this is an even bigger adventure than in the first one, as our best friends, Andy's Toys, go on a journey to rescue Woody and bring him back home. And in the meanwhile, they run into other side adventures, such as going into Al's Toy Barn, which is where they suspect Woody is at, and they get basically a tour guide from Barbie. And I went immediately into this because the best parts of this film is Ham and Slinky and Rex and Buzz going on this tour. Everything about Al's Toy Barn and our heroes on that adventure as they're searching for Woody is, for me, the best part of this film. And even Buzz finding another Buzz toy coming to life, and they play the identity switcheroo. It's fantastic, and it plays a lot about what Buzz learned in the previous film. I love that this new Buzz also has that identity crisis, that he doesn't understand that he's not really a space ranger, but he is a toy. Even though he's surrounded by Buzz Lightyear figures, he believes he's a space ranger, and this is where we meet Zurg. Emperor Zurg, Buzz Lightyear's main nemesis, and everything about them is fantastic, because eventually, as they're nearing Al's apartment on the other side of the street of the store, Buzz and Zurg start fighting, and the copy Buzz gets left behind, and eventually you have a very good, really excellent parody version of the Empire Strikes Back scene where Buzz finds out that Zurg is his dad.
Surrender, Buzz Lightyear. I have won.
I'll never give in. You killed my father.
No, Buzz. I am your father.
And eventually, near the end of the film, you'll find them playing catch with each other and just catching up with each other about what has been going on in life, because they've been separated their entire lives. I really enjoy everything about our heroes on this journey, and Barbie giving them the tour, finding the spa with the other Barbies. It's just excellent stuff. And when they're trying to cross the street under the cones, the orange cones, and nobody understands what is going on, I think Toy Story 2 just might have the best comedic moments of the trilogy, even counting the Mrs. Nesbitt stuff from the first film. Now let's go into Woody's part of the story, and let's start by talking about what's gotta be the most heart-wrenching part of this entire film. Probably top 3 most heart-wrenching scenes or moments of the films, and that's when we learn Jessie's backstory. She's super excited to have Woody here. She's ready to fulfill a purpose of going to Japan. I think it's Japan. When Woody tries to convince her to go back to Andy, she reveals backstory that she was abandoned by this little girl who was her Andy, and it was called Emily. And I know the theories that we think it's Andy's mom. I believe that theory, but I really don't care about it when talking about this film. Not only is it a great song, but it's an example of how to make a short film. You pick up that montage, that entire song sequence of Jessie telling her story to Woody as she's looking out the window. If you just take that piece of the film and put it in front of any Pixar film, it would be the backstory to Jessie that you need to know. That's an entire short film all in itself. And I think that's why it's so powerful. It's beginning, middle, and end, and you get an entire story right there, a mini story, a mini arc inside this gigantic, fun, and heart-wrenching film. And I like to find out that Woody maybe had a different purpose to serve beyond being Andy's toy, as he taught Buzz that he had in the previous film. The roles are kind of twisted, but at the same time, as we find out that Woody is going to give a chance to Jesse and Stinky Pete and Bullseye and go to Japan because he fears Andy might not love him without his arm, because Woody earlier in the film gets his arm a little bit ripped, and then eventually the man from the Pixar short films comes in and fixes his arm, and he looks brand new and clean, and he doesn't have the brand that Sid left on him anymore. Even though this is a great inner conflict, it kind of calls bullshit on what Woody taught Buzz in the first film, and that is my biggest problem with Toy Story 2. I think this is the weakest of the three. That being said, this is just a great film in its own, because it bothers me taking into context the previous film. If I just look at this film and judge it critically and fairly solely on what it does from beginning to end, it's a great conflict, it's great drama, and it's great when Buzz himself calls bullshit on what Woody is believing right now. And eventually, as his friends get there and convince him to go back to Andy, and that is quickly resolved, Jesse and Bullseye agree to go with him, but they are trapped by what turns out to be the villain of this film, Stinky Pete. He had this whole thing arranged. He turned on the TV when Woody was trying to escape, and he did all sorts of stuff to Woody to keep him there and to convince him that he needed to go to Japan. He talks about the show being cancelled. I really don't like this villain. And some of the stuff that he explains when you think about it really doesn't make sense in a world where toys are actually alive when humans aren't looking at them. The biggest reason for me not liking Stinky Pete as a villain is because the film didn't need him as a villain. Al, the Collector, was already the best villain this film could get. Just like in the first film, the best and only villain in there was Sid. This film didn't need Stinky Pete. Al would have done the exact same thing even if Stinky Pete hadn't been a villain in this film. So the narrative doesn't change that much, but gets this add-on that I didn't really find necessary. Now this leads into a very entertaining and exciting climax as they go down to the airport. Woody is almost being put on a plane, but he gets Jesse and Bullseye free. But Stinky Pete, as the briefcases and the luggage is all going down those corridors to go into the planes, they fight on there, but eventually they strap Stinky Pete onto a little girl's backpack, and it's just going to be torture for him. We all know little kids don't treat toys well, which we saw in the first film, and we'll see in the third one. I really love the climax of this film because it gives us more of a context of these toys being alive and something we recognize from the real world, and not just being in rooms or in a car or something like that. And throughout this film, we see stuff like that when Woody's friends go into the city and try to save him in the street, crossing it under the orange cones. There's a lot of that stuff in this film, which I really, really appreciated. And as always, the animation just keeps getting and getting better, literally by each film. I think actually Toy Story 2, either Toy Story 2 or Monsters Inc., were the first films where I realized that this animation literally gets better by each film they do. The animation in Toy Story still is fantastic to this day, but they keep progressing and progressing literally with each film that they make and they put out. Honestly, I still have issues with Woody's kind of conflict, as great of a story that it delivers, and I also have issues with Stinky Pete and his machinations behind the scenes that are explained later on. Nonetheless, this film is as emotional, as much fun, as adrenaline-fueled, if not more, than the first one. From the friendships, to the new friendships, to the ending of this film, which is just incredible, with Jesse showing up to Buzz and him popping his wings open when she does the thing that he did in the beginning of the first film. I really feel bad about saying that I have issues with Toy Story, any of them, but I just couldn't look past what bothered me about the second one. Still, it doesn't take much away, because I'm giving Toy Story 2 an A-. Now guys, what did you think of Toy Story 2? Because I have many friends who think it is the best one out of the three, because I also haven't seen 4. But I will give you my review for what I think is the best film in the Toy Story trilogy on Thursday, before I get to see Toy Story 4 on Friday. I hope to see you in both of those reviews, and tomorrow I'll give you my review for yesterday. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. I hope to see you in all those reviews that I mentioned, and check out my review of the first Toy Story that I put up also yesterday. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. Until the next video, stay beautiful, stay geeky, and if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and click the bell so we can be geeky united.